There we go. Awesome. So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Molly Atwater-Pulisic. I am the director of UOAA's Young Ostomate Outreach Program, and you have joined us for one of our several panel discussions. We like to call them Ask Me Anythings. Thank you, Reddit. Today's Ask Me Anything panel discussion is all about how to navigate exercising and staying physically active with an ostomy. This is something that a lot of ostomates have a ton of questions about. And so we've got two awesome panelists who have navigated themselves, who are ready to tell you all the stories that they've got from the trenches. And I can't wait to hear what tips and tricks they've got. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So we've got LeeAnne Hayden and Ryan Van Voorhis. Did I pronounce that right?
Yeah.
Close enough? Okay, sweet. Well, to launch us in, I'm going to ask both of them to share a little bit about themselves and how they ended up with an ostomy. And from there, we will start asking some questions about exercise. They are both very physically fit and very excited to share their stories. So LeeAnne, let's go ahead and start with you.
Sounds great. Hi, everybody. I'm glad to be on the call. Molly, thanks for asking. So my story goes, I used to do fitness competitions for fun. Well, I decided to do that when I was 39 years old. But I've exercised all my life. And I think it was about in 2015. So I was just about 45 years old. I was diagnosed with cancer. I had a tumor that was in my pelvis floor. And to remove it, they had to take all my rectal muscles with it as well to get this tumor. And the tumor was the size of a Nerf football by the time it was done growing. And so when they did that, they took all my rectal muscles, which then, I got the Barbie butt in an ostomy, that whole thing. And that was basically, almost 7 years ago now. It was in January of 2016. I came out of it just thinking I have a second chance in life and I'm just going to keep going and go even bigger if I can, live this life as big as I can.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, once you got that tumor out, there's nothing keeping you down. So definitely excited to hear a little bit about how you've stayed positive and stayed motivated to keep exercising. So Ryan, let's hear a little bit about what's gotten you to ostomy life.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, again, thank you for having us on the call. Happy to kind of share my experience. I'm by no means an expert, but have a passion for health and wellness in my personal life and also in my business now. But I was diagnosed with Crohn's in high school. I won't tell you what year that was because it was a long time ago. But after years of various treatments, steroids, all these different trial medications, biologics, nothing really was working to the point when I was 19 years old. So I battled Crohn's for about 4 or 5 years, pretty unsuccessfully during high school and began in my college career, to the point where I spent spring break getting my colon removed at the Mayo Clinic, which wasn't fun, but at the same time, at that point in my life, I had no quality of life. I was 18, 19, in the bathroom 20 something times a day, barely being able to pass anything. So I was miserable. I was in a lot of pain. So, it wasn't something I was really looking forward to doing, but also, again, had no choice. If I wanted any quality of life, I needed to have my colon permanently removed and also have a Ken butt. But that took a couple years later down the road. Once I kind of started healing from the abdominal surgery with the ostomy, they went back in a couple different times to kind of clean up some of the scar tissue in there and finally close that area up. But really, once I had the ostomy and got comfortable with it and healed, from surgery, it took, a year plus to really feel myself again. But one thing that I was really passionate about, even pre-surgery, was I was always active. I played sports in high school. And that was a big thing for me and a big part of my identity, being able to be active and try to lead a healthy lifestyle. And so for me, there was a lot of challenges adjusting to, having an ostomy and your muscles being different and cut open and repaired and things like that. But I was able to get to a point where I could feel confident again and get back in the gym and get into sports. again, knowing there were some limitations and things I had to change about my lifestyle. But when I was able to kind of figure that out, not only my physical health got better, but, my mental health got better as well. I mean, I think a lot of us are in gyms or physically active, not only to physically feel better, but the mind and gut connection is so intertwined with that. So for me, yeah, I've had setbacks over the years. I've had an ostomy now longer than I've lived without an ostomy. So I feel like I've kind of figured some things out over the years. It doesn't mean that your body changes or things changes or injuries come and go, but it's always been a part of my life and my routine. And I'm happy to be here today and be able to be active.
Yeah, that's awesome. You are an old pro at this point. So we're very fortunate to have both of you guys here to answer any questions that we've got. So I'll probably be the main asker of the questions. That is my job as moderator, but this is also a conversation between you guys. If you have questions for each other, just ask and chime in. It's very informal. So to open it up, let's talk a little bit about returning to exercise post-ostomy. I think that is the biggest hurdle that a lot of people face when they look at ostomy surgery is, yes, I want to be active, but how do I get started? It feels very intimidating and scary, and there's all this sort of stuff that can go wrong. So if you guys both talk a little bit about your venture back into physical activity post-ostomy surgery, especially if you can talk a little bit about like what you were used to in pre-surgery days and what you had to kind of modify immediately after surgery. So
yeah, I'll start with that. So mine was lifting heavy. I lifted heavy weights, especially when you competed, right? So my body was used to it. I've done, did a little bit of everything, but I was used to lifting heavy weights and doing sprint drills and a lot of Tabata style stuff and burpees and you name it. I was doing it prior to, even up until like 2 weeks before, even with the cancer, I just kept going. And it again, Ryan had said this, right? It's the mental health part of it. I physically have to do something every day. And I still am the same way now. And I know after coming out of it, I asked my doctor, what can I do and what can I not do? Because me being an ostomy was a maybe. They weren't sure. So when I woke up and realized I'm in it, I'm like, oh, okay, now what, right? So he's like, you need to heal from surgery. So please don't go pick up a weight because he knew me. Just we're going to let your body heal, but you should be able to do everything you did now prior to surgery. Now you'll be able to do everything. And I said, okay. He goes, but you have to give your body time. So to heal. So I started with just, walking. And then I remember it was 6 weeks to the day. And I was like, my surgery's done. I'm done. 6 weeks to the day. I'd flown to California. I was at a conference speaking on stage in front of 200 people, 200 women, kind of sharing my story. And I said, I'm going to go down to the gym and I'm going to lift some weights. And I went downstairs and I picked up like 5-pound weights. I didn't care. I'm just like, I want something in my hand and I wanted to do something. So I didn't do any jumping or anything, but I just did like steady lunges, like slow and easy. And I said, if anything hurts or anything feels awkward or weird, I'm just going to stop. But I'm at least going to do something to show me that I can. So that's how I started. And I just did it progressive. I did it slowly over time. And now I did another fitness competition after with my bag. I've done, they call it high rocks competition where you're running and doing burpees and you're pushing 280 pounds across the floor. Like you're just doing like all the crazy stuff. So I've been going back to doing that kind of stuff. But again, I'm always cautious about having my ostomy. I wear tight leggings, right? So it's fit. Sometimes I will wear something like a stealth belt or something just to make sure I'm secure at what I'm doing. And I never go overboard. So I've learned to pay attention to my body because I've been doing this for, since I was, 16 years old was my first gym membership, for crying out loud.
Absolutely. Yeah. So slow and steady for sure.
Mm-hmm. Slow and steady for sure is how it's how I did it. And I remember the one thing that I was afraid of was doing yoga, was going into a quiet yoga studio. I mean, now they play music and it's loud and all that, but it was going into a quiet yoga studio. And that was one that I had to have my friend, who is also my fitness coach, she dragged me to a yoga class, and she goes, we're going to do this together. And if something happens and there's a noise, then you'll figure it out. You'll figure it out, but we're going to go. Just to kind of overcome that fear, I had that person go with me. So I got back into yoga as well.
Nice.
Yeah. Yep.
That's awesome.
Similar kind of story for me. I think, some of my, I don't know, biggest memories, or even just waking up from the surgery, and, the goal for the day was to be able to get out of bed or walk around your room. And then it was, walk around the unit, in the hospital. And so literally, like, the definition of like baby steps, like just kind of taking it one day at a time. But also, I'm sure it was hard for LeeAnne and myself too. Once, you start feeling better, the urge is to like push harder than you should. And that's kind of when you can kind of run into some injuries and setbacks. But yeah, so my kind of road back into the gym was very slow. Just kind of, not only letting my body heal, but even by then, just my stamina, had kind of changed, and my body was weaker, things I was used to doing and being able to work out for a certain amount of minutes or time or intensity was definitely not what it was pre-surgery or when I was feeling healthier. So those are things that kind of took time to adjust. Like LeeAnne said, I used to lift really heavy and loved like weightlifting, which I still mix in. I still do that a couple times a week, but I also now am a member at a gym in Chicago here that has a yoga studio. They have like a high interval room. They have a cycling room. So I've been mixing more of that into my weekly routine, not only to, as I get older, to, increase my flexibility and my mobility, but also just with an ostomy, just being able to, still being able to do all the things that everyone else can, just, making some modifications here and there. I wear an ostomy support belt all the time. There was a time, years ago where I wouldn't, and formed a pretty bad hernia, which is, I think, a pretty common problem if you overdo it, which again, I'm guilty of often. Wanting to, do more than I physically can, or not wanting to, listen to my body. Sometimes I'm pretty stubborn about that. But over the years, yes, I've learned to get better about things and, wear that belt, 100% of the time when I'm ever lifting or working out. But it definitely is a slow process. You have to listen to your body, talk to your doctors, hire a personal trainer, or if, I have a lot of friends in that industry. So even the gyms I go to, there's always people that are around that can help me, maybe modify some, some abdominal work or some things like that, the normal person maybe wouldn't have to do, but me having limited core strength and things now, there's some things I have to modify, but just have people around you that what they're doing, that they're certified, and some training, and definitely if people have some experience with people with ostomies or Crohn's and colitis where they've had some physical changes to their body that they need some modifications, it's a great way to kind of get you back on your feet.
Yeah, you've got all sorts of resources to help you get back in there. And you mentioned that you ended up with a hernia. I feel like that is the biggest thing when you go to your surgeon and they're like, don't push it too fast because you'll get a hernia. Like, a hernia by definition is a hole in your abdominal wall. So we have done that. Like, we went into surgery and had that surgically done. We've got that hole, and then hernias form when things that aren't necessarily supposed to go through the abdominal wall get trapped. So Ryan, can you talk a little bit about your hernia experience? I know a lot of people
I mean,
scared of them, so.
It was bad. Mine was about 9 centimeters. I think, small ones are pretty common, even if you don't have an ostomy or weakened kind of abdominal wall. My good gym buddy has like a really small one. Mine was, like pretty big. And it got to the point where, it was not causing a lot of pain, but I also knew that I needed to get it corrected, for fear of any kind of blockage or, or additional tearing. So that was I had a surgery for that. Thankfully I was in pretty good shape still, that the surgery was a pretty quick one, where they really, you know, would just kind of, again, go through your abdominal wall, kind of push things back in place. They gave me like an internal mesh kind of thing, so it kind of tightened everything up. So even after that, though, again, you know, you're starting that process kind of from ground, you know, zero again. You're starting to, you know, you made all this progress, maybe you had an injury, and then, yeah, then I had to, you know, let my body heal and work that stamina up and things like that. So knock on wood here. No, I've been healthy and again, smarter as I've got older and been through some setbacks that I'm like, you know what, it's not worth pushing myself, you know, overexerting myself, lifting X amount of weights or whatever, if it's going to, you know, cause me some harm. You know, so that's kind of changed some of my mentality again, as far as like how I choose to exercise. And, you know, it's been a little more like on the yoga side and strength training versus like heavy weightlifting for me lately.
Mm-hmm. LeeAnne, have you had an experience with a hernia at all?
I haven't, and I have not, so I haven't had to deal with it. I'm just going to knock on some wood. Right. But I mean, I like Ryan lately, it's more mobility, it's more yoga, it's more stretching, it's more flexibility. It's, you know, it's just that slowing down stuff. And even when I do lift, I mean, I used to leg press 450 pounds and now I'm leg pressing like 180, you know, so it's not like heavy stuff anymore, but it's still at least moving the body. And I mean, that can go to age too. So
You can attribute it to whatever you'd like.
whichever.
180 pounds still that's not something to sneeze at. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, I actually worked with a personal trainer after I had surgery because I was extremely concerned about getting a hernia and I was pretty active. And I also knew that I feel like there's a lot of us out there who like have it in our minds that yes, we need to slow down, but then it just feels so good and you feel like you can do everything. And so I needed somebody there to kind of keep me accountable and say like, maybe don't try that. Maybe we'll see how it goes and then we can kind of inch our way up. But our focus was specifically for the first, I'd say like 6 weeks of when I started working out, which is, I guess, 6 weeks post-surgery. So it was like from 6 weeks to 12 weeks was a lot of trying to find that base abdominal strength again. Mm-hmm. So doing a lot of like exercises that you do for a C-section because it's kind of the same abdominal area, trying to keep everything nice and tight, and really just focusing on small movements that would restabilize everything, get the back involved because your back is part of your core too, so that it kind of created that like extra layer so that if something did go wrong, if a muscle decided to tweak a little bit, or if my body did a move in a way that it wasn't used to, it wasn't completely catastrophe. I had that like base of core strength in my back pocket there, which was really helpful. And then a lot of the external support, so stealth belt, hernia belts, there's a lot of ostomy specific wraps and that sort of thing where you can ask them to put more support in for hernias, both either if you've got a hernia already or if you're just trying to prevent one. So there is all of the accessorization that you can do to prevent all of those sorts of things. So you've talked a little bit about, both of you, what you are currently up to fitness-wise. What is something that you have done, exercise, physical activity related with an ostomy that like pre-surgery or pre-ostomy, you never thought you would be able to do with an ostomy?
I don't know, because I just had the mindset that I was just going to do it.
I love that.
So I just kind of said, I was just, you know, I think, like I said, yoga was my biggest fear, and that was more of making noises, I think, than lifting weights. That was one of the things. You know, maybe running, right? I just, you know, doing sprint drills and things like that. I had to, and again, it's all just reminding myself, and I still do it. I mean, it's been almost 7 years. I'm still like, LeeAnne, slow down, because even at, you know, whatever age you are and whatever health you are, whether we have an ostomy or not, everybody can always get themselves hurt if they're not paying attention, you know? So.
Yeah, for me, I mean, there's not anything that I probably do more now with an ostomy than I did before. And it took me a while, of course, you know, once I kind of got comfortable with my bag and being able to kind of trust that it's going to stick up and not fall off when I'm doing things. I've done some boxing classes. I played flag football. I think one of the big things, I think maybe even I get asked through my own like experience or Instagram is swimming. I love being in the water, and I think that a lot of people, are like, oh, like I can't swim, the bag's going to come off or it's going to weaken. But even if I'm wearing like a stealth belt or a wrap or not, I've had a great time, in the ocean or swimming and diving. So I think that's been one thing, even for myself, being kind of confident in the products I use and my body being able to, be a kid and jump in the water, or jump off a boat or things like that. That has built confidence even in myself, and even having an ostomy for over 20 years, still being able to do all those things that I could pre-ostomy as well.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything exercise-wise that you kind of steer clear of for ostomy reasons? Or
I'm not, there's so many things, that I don't do just because I'm not interested. Like jujitsu or, things like that, where it's like a really contact sport.
mm-hmm.
I wouldn't recommend. Even the boxing stuff I've done, we're not even, you're not sparring, you're hitting like a heavy bag or something. So I'm not like taking punches to my stomach, things like that. I wouldn't recommend. I think it would be higher risk for injury, playing contact football, or again, wrestling, things like that, where you're literally contorting your body and things like that, where I think it would be a lot harder on your system and your abdominals. But, thankfully that wasn't one of my interests pre-surgery either way.
Mm-hmm. I mean, LeeAnne, you've come in strong saying you do it all. So is there anything that you steer clear?
Again, I like Ryan said, I've done boxing classes, but there's no sparring, stuff like that. I'm not into the jujitsu stuff, but my stuff is really just, it's solo, or it's solo, but classroom kind of stuff as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the only thing is the wrestling with my grandkids. I have to once in a while be like, hey, dude, you can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Or don't jump on my stomach, please.
Probably not the best for ostomy health and safety.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that I had heard going into surgery was never to do a plank again because of like the intra-abdominal pressure. But I do planks all the time now. So I think one of the important things to remember is when you are in your surgeon's office and they give all sorts of those, like, probably shouldn't do this, probably shouldn't do that. Ostomies are so individual, and like each person is going to navigate this ostomy entirely differently. Our bodies are all made differently. So what one person can do with no problems, maybe the other person should either like wait a long time to do, or maybe just kind of phase that out of their workout routine. I think if there is something that you feel super passionate about, and you can't imagine your life without that as part of your identity, there's ways. Like ostomy is, we've probably all learned, is all about accommodation and just thinking like a couple steps ahead just in case. So I feel like that flexibility and awareness goes a long way.
It really does. And even like walking. People forget that walking is a form of exercise. And I walk, 3 to 5 miles every day, like on a route that I do every single day on top of like whatever my steps are. And so and that alone can do wonders for so many people. So if somebody's not into, picking up weights or, going to a class or doing that kind of stuff, just getting out and walking and getting that fresh air and getting that movement into your body can do so much for your body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no right way to exercise. There's find something that you move your body and it makes you feel good, and it makes your body feel good, and it does great things. Ryan, you said this earlier, it does great things for your body, and it also does great things for your mind. Having some sort of physical activity in your routine is always a wise choice, just to keep that body mind connection connection going. Looks like we got a question earlier about fatigue and exercise. The question was specifically about being on biologics and if they make you too tired to work out. Have either of you guys experienced something like that? Ryan, I feel like you're in the more biologics camp rather than the cancer diagnosis.
I was on them for years, and I don't remember anything, it was so long ago. I don't remember feeling extra fatigue or tired specifically related to any medications. I think I can't specifically speak to that, but in general, not only just having an ostomy, but especially with exercise, it's your digestive system is now half what it used to be, and you're not absorbing all these nutrients, and things are passing through you so quickly. So I think we're all, just more likely to be, have more fatigue or be dehydrated more. So I think that's been a, equally important thing is getting back into a fitness routine, but also maybe changing some of your nutritional needs and diets. And, I try my best. I'm always like drinking water, trying to stay hydrated, especially when you're working out. Because again, people with ostomies, things are just passing through you a lot quicker. So I'll always try to, stay hydrated, but also then, have, little, hydration packets with me just to kind of help me get some of those fluids back in my system. Because I think we're more prone also to injury when we're, dehydrated or overextending ourselves. So outside of any medication side effects, I think just naturally having, a shorter gut, that, being able to exercise, we want to make sure that we're taking care of our body and putting, good nutrients and fuel into it as well.
Yeah, that's a really great point. When we exercise, we lose a lot of that sodium and magnesium and potassium, all those crucial electrolytes that we need. And as ostomates, especially ileostomates who don't have that large intestine to help absorb those things, being really vigilant about that sodium, potassium, magnesium replacement is really crucial. I also talked with a few ostomates who run long distances and like marathon runners. I mean, we all know Colin Jarvis because he's so cool. It's fine. But he's talked a little bit about like how he has to modify his eating based on what runs he's going to do, because a lot of people's systems can hold on to that stuff until the end of a workout, but in ours, like, we don't really have that sphincter muscle, so it's gonna keep on moving whether we want it to or not. So a lot of playing around with how that fueling impacts your body, and then how your body impacts what amount of fuel you need, is another great balancing act.
Yeah, it really is. And I interviewed my surgeon a few episodes ago, and he was talking about, people who just have, you have your ileostomy, and he suggested even having a banana while you're drinking your water, eating your banana and your water together, because the banana will slow down the digestive tract, and it will help your small intestine. Your small intestine turns into the one that absorbs the water because you no longer have the large intestine. So that will slow it down and allow your small intestine to start absorbing the water. So that was one suggestion. So yeah, I mean, fuel is almost key. Fuel is key to exercising. And I just started doing IV drips once in a while. I'll go and get an IV drip. If I'm feeling a little too lethargic myself, I just go sit down, read a book, get an IV. It goes straight into my bloodstream, and it's good.
Have you guys ever used exercise as a way to get your stoma moving again?
It has happened to me a few times when I've gone on a run. Like, I felt a little constipated, and I was like, okay, I'm going to go for a little run, walk kind of scenario. We'll see how that goes. And halfway through the run, everything starts to move, and I'm like, here comes my bag. It's filling up. All right, it did its job. And I turn around and come back home. And my stomach looks like huge. My husband goes, what happened to you? I go, it worked. That's all I'm going to say. It worked. Yeah,
I've had a couple instances where I felt like a mini blockage was starting to form. So like, few jumping jacks, like get everything moving, get that body pumping, and all of a sudden it's like, yeah. So all that motion is good for all varieties of stuff going on there. It looks like we've got a few more questions popping in this chat. This is great. Let's see. Let's go to the top what ostomy protective gear do you use for exercise? And do you do different gear for different exercise programs? That's a great question, David.
Yeah, it's a great question. I do when I'm lifting, when I know I'm going to lift heavy, I'll wear my stealth belt, like, or, you know, my wrap, I'll wear that. I always, and I'm a woman, I always have my Lululemons, and let me tell you, those things just, it's like Spanx. It tightens everything's nice and tight in there. So I never have to worry about anything moving if I'm doing any other form of exercise, but I know if I'm going to lift on the heavier side, I will wear the stealth belt just to kind of hold myself together even tighter. That's what I do.
That's a great point.
Yeah, I have a stealth belt as well. I also have, I think it's from the UK, Mr. Crohn's colitis has a wrap as well. And I've been discharged from the hospital with kind of like these binders that aren't super supportive. I mean, they're good enough in the hospital, but these ones, like the stealth belt and the one I have, they're made for fitness and active people, and they are very comfortable. They, again, just kind of keep everything tight, whether you're lifting or not. So I wear mine any kind of workout I do. Sometimes I'm a chef now, so I'm always on my feet, moving, lifting heavy things. So there's even times where I'm wearing it throughout the day, depending on what my needs are. But I feel like that just it gives me, like, literally not only an extra layer of protection, but just gives me more confidence in my body and my core strength, being able to move around, having that on me.
Yeah, that's a great point. There's a lot of ostomy wraps out there for exercise. So if you're interested at all in doing something like that, take a look, see what's going to fit. I know we've worked a lot with Stealth Belt. They're owned by Ostomates, so they get it. And they also do a lot of customization. So like I was saying, like if you needed extra hernia support, or you're a double bagger and you need an ostomy on either side of your bag or on your belt or your bags, they accommodate that. So definitely worth checking them out for sure. Let's see. I get this question a lot. This is from Ayana. She wanted to know what advice you have for someone who is not really active before ostomy surgery, who wants to exercise more, but is terrified of getting a hernia.
Start slow and go on walks. Start with walks. The other thing you can do too is hire a personal trainer, even a physical therapist. If you want to talk to your doctor, even starting with a physical therapist or a personal trainer, make sure they're aware of your situation. But start slow with walks. And I mean, you can even start at home. You can do a few things at home with just your own body weight, and slow and steady. I mean, those are some of the things that I would recommend.
Yeah, same for me. Just, being able to, depending on what kind of exercise you want to do or whatever you're passionate about, just really starting slow. Molly, you're saying, not being able to do a plank, or not recommending do a plank, but I mean, I think all of us now are active and doing planks, but there's always modifications you can do. I think one of the good things about even the yoga gym I go to, they're teaching 30 people at a time, but also give individual attention. So they know me and I know them, and if there's certain things that I can't physically do, or it's just not worth me risking injury, there's always modifications to do. So if you're they're doing these complicated type of sit-ups, maybe it's just like a small crunch or a plank from your knees, to get started. But just slowly, trusting your body and listening and trying not to overdo it is kind of the best way to go. And then, as you build that confidence up and kind of build up a little more core strength, then you'll feel yourself being stronger and being able to do more. I have like free weights at my house. If I'm just doing something light, I always carry in my gym bag, even like resistance bands. They're great. They're super light to carry around, but they're easy to, help just stretch, whether you're whatever kind of workout you're doing. A resistant band, you can do a lot of different things with, depending on what type of movement you're trying to work on.
Yeah, and it looks like, Ayana, the other section of your question was more specifically on looking for a personal trainer, finding one that had experience with an ostomy or no. I'll speak a little bit to this because I did look for a personal trainer. So I ended up looking for a personal trainer who had experience with the ostomies. And as you can probably guess, there's not a lot of them out there. I feel like the majority of the population with an ostomy, it tends to skew a little bit older. So people who are looking to get into more rigorous exercise aren't quite as common in the ostomy population. Not to say that they don't exist, because we're right here talking to you right now. But the people who work in gyms as personal trainers, probably not quite as familiar with ostomies. When I chose my personal trainer, I did some research. I took a look at the gym to see what everybody's credentials was. I wanted to make sure that I was really going to a trained professional. It's my body, and I wanted to be able to feel like I could put trust in the person that I was giving that responsibility to. I did find somebody who had experience as a physical therapist in a hospital. So my thinking was like, well, if he was a PT in a hospital, maybe he's seen an ostomy before, and so it won't be quite as shocking to him. And so he definitely had seen one. He had never personal trained anybody with one, but I was extremely forward with him in terms of, here's what's going on, here's what I'm concerned about. If you are willing to learn along with me, that would be awesome, and we can kind of teach each other as we go. I'll be really open and honest with how things are feeling. If I'm experiencing any pain, any discomfort, anything that's like, this doesn't feel right in my body. And he did all sorts of research. And so I think it was fun for both of us, because I was kind of a new challenge, and he could go outside the realm of his scope of practice and feel like he made a difference there. So if you're looking for a personal trainer, my biggest thing is just research, find somebody that you're comfortable with, and don't hide that you have an ostomy, because that is a crucial piece of information when you're going to embark on a new exercise routine, whether you are experienced or not. So that is definitely my insight on that. Ooh, let's see, we've got a couple more food questions about exercise. So when you have an ileostomy, should you eat before you exercise or after? What do you guys do?
Well, I have a colostomy, so I eat all the day long. I probably eat about 5 meals a day, so I eat about every 2.5 hours. So I feel my body, but I don't have the ileostomy. But I think when Ryan gets back, I think he's checking on his dogs. He is more apt to answer that question.
Yeah, so Ryan, how do you feel?
Yeah, sorry to let my dog in. It depends. I am I always eat before. It depends kind of what I'm doing that day, what I'll eat in the morning. Sometimes it's just a protein shake. Sometimes if I'm doing more weightlifting and I have more time in the gym, I'll eat like a heartier breakfast, knowing that, I'm going at my own pace, so I can just, in between sets, run to the bathroom really quickly, which I often do. If it's in like a fitness class where it's like a 45-minute class to an hour, I'll still do like a protein shake in the morning, but maybe I'll pair that with a banana or something that I don't have to skip in the middle of class to go to run to the bathroom. But it doesn't stop me from going to the gym or doing a workout. The beauty of having an ostomy bag now is like I can run in and out in 90 seconds and be back into the workout or something. So it really doesn't stop me. I'm not worried about missing a big chunk of class. I think like LeeAnne talked about earlier, maybe it's more about having more output during that class or making noise in a yoga class. But I found also even the wrap, if any of you use those now, that kind of like, kind of dampens the sound if there is any output coming out, so you don't have to really feel too nervous about that. A lot of my the studio gyms, are usually playing music too, or there's someone talking. So it's really more, in my own mind, like, is anyone going to notice? But really more times than not, people are focused on their own workouts, that they're not paying attention to you next door making fart noises or things like that. So I often eat, I eat every time before I work out, but then also as soon as I finish, as much as I can or quickly as I can, try to replenish and have another protein shake or a meal or something just to help in that recovery process as well.
and again, everybody is individual. So some people need a more substantial meal before they exercise. Some people feel better on an empty stomach. It really depends on the person. And if you're not a banana person, because I know like extra fit people love them some bananas, but some people just like cannot stomach them. Any sort of like starchy, like white bread, basically
Oatmeal.
Yeah, oatmeal, like anything in the brat diet is great. The bananas, rice, applesauce, toast, anything that's gonna kind of just make your ostomy a little bit sluggish. Peanut butter is also really good to do that. So you have all sorts of wonderful options there. Any kind of diarrhea med prior to exercise? Do either of you guys struggle with high output or anything like that?
I usually don't, so I don't have an answer for that one.
Yeah, I often don't either. I guess I probably would lean towards the higher output side, so I don't really ever struggle with constipation. But yeah, I mean, I'm lucky enough that I live like 3 blocks from the gym, and I can use the bathroom in the gym. But I've taken you know, Imodium or prescribed anti-diarrhea medicines before. I feel like for me, it makes me like more gassy sometimes. Like it'll slow things down, but then I have other kind of symptoms from it. But I don't know. I tend to not take anything. It's more about just, you know, changing my diet a little bit based on what I'm doing that day, or if I'm having, I know there's, you know, and that's the good, I mean, the good and the bad thing for me about having an ostomy and being a foodie and a chef, I eat everything and anything, whether it's good for me or not, you know, it tastes good. So there's certain things that I know that are going to go through me quicker, whether I'm working out or not. You know, so, you know, on the flip side, yeah, if I'm working out, I'm having a little more output, maybe I will have an oatmeal or something a little higher in fiber for me personally before a workout.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. If you're struggling with high output and it's getting worse during a workout, then that's probably something that you might want to ask your doctor about, ask your surgeon about. That may be another health issue. And then another thing I should probably disclose, none of the 3 of us are medical professionals. So like take all of these suggestions, advice with a grain of salt. This is based on our own experience. Again, everybody's body is different. Don't end up with a hernia because, oh, Molly said you could do planks. Like, remember to listen to your body, take it slow. So just wanted to sneak that in there so that somewhere in this hour-long conversation that we are providing advice and tips and not medical advice. So let's see, we've got a couple of people who have asked about the belts, stealth belts, wraps, sort of that thing. Do they interfere with output at all? And do they cause pancaking or like any other leakage issues?
Sometimes I get pancaking, whether I'm using my belt or even just wearing my leggings, because it's just everything's so tight. So sometimes that does cause pancaking, and I often feel it happening, right? So I run to the bathroom, take off my bag, and just because I wear a 2-piece, take off my bag and just let whatever's there come out, plop it back on, and go back to doing what I was doing. I haven't yet let it slow me down from getting my workouts in. And it's just something that sometimes we're just going to have to deal with, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the wraps I wear, and I have a 1-piece ostomy bag, drainable. So I think that was a fear in the beginning of mine, like everyone else, is, oh, is it gonna prevent things from, you know, passing down into the bag? Because usually my bag hangs below the belt a little bit, but the more I've worn it and got comfortable with it, like it's not stopping any output from happening. I think years ago when I was doing like a hot yoga class, and there's a lot more like movement and it's I'm sweating a lot more, but I think so I did have a breakdown in the bag. But also having that belt on also kept things secure and got me through the class. Whereas if I wasn't wearing the wrap and I had some kind of leak, maybe it would have caused more of a problem or a mess, but literally having that wrap on, again, just provides not only an extra layer of protection internally for your abdominals and your core, but even on your external, if there is any type of leakage, that's gonna hold everything in until you can get out of class or go to the bathroom and things like that. So the risk is far greater than the reward. Just having a wrap on or a belt that is going to keep me safe from injury, and really, I think 1 out of the 100 times I've ever worked out with it did I have a bag malfunction, but really it had nothing to do with the wrap. If anything, the wrap helped keep everything in place. So
yeah, kind of keeps it all contained.
Yeah.
And I think if you do have a concern about like leakage or anything like that during a workout, especially if it's one that you think you're gonna not be able to go to the bathroom for a while, do a bag change that morning. Like ultimately, we typically have leaks because there's some skin breakdown around the wafer. So by just reinforcing that area, making sure that everything is nice and fresh, things are all good. So there's many ways to skin a cat. Preferably you don't skin a cat, but looking up here some other questions. Oh, so we've got Paz, who is a Special Olympics athlete. She's going to be wearing a custom leotard with a stealth belt over top of her leotard that's been modified so that her bag can be worn outside so that everything can flow smoothly. She is concerned about if she's got a blowout, it's got nowhere else to go except all over the place. Any suggestions about that? I would just say, like, make sure you do that bathroom run right before competition. And if an issue starts to happen, you roll with the punches and excuse yourself, go take care of it, and come on back, and everybody should be fine with that.
I think that's our biggest fear, right? It's one of our biggest fears outside of like having a hernia is what if it gets everywhere? What if people see? What if it makes a noise? That whole fear. And we have to get through that anyways. It may or may not happen, but we have to break through that fear and just step on the other side of it anyways. Because I know I've had accidents not even working out during workouts, that I've had to go and take care of, and then say, okay, well, that happened to me and I'm not the only one. And just know this, you're not the only one. We've all had something happen to us. It's at one point in time, when we're all in this together.
Yeah, we've all got something. An ostomy bag, something else. Nobody has come through life without a single embarrassing moment. So
Yeah, and for me, and I don't know, everyone's different, but for me, almost exercising with an ostomy, surrounded by people that don't have one, it's almost like a motivator for me, that it's like, look, I can keep up with normal people, or I can do this. One of my most favorite memories was, and I wasn't even working out, I was volunteering at a Crohn's camp, and we all went down to the lake. I took my shirt off, and here's my ostomy, and got right in the water, was playing sports and stuff. And little did I know, at the same time, on the other side of the beach, there was a young kid that had a new ostomy and some scars, but was worried about taking off his shirt. And the counselor who was kind of talking him through that just happened to see me, just living life and not letting it stop me. And that kid saw me and was able to like get in the water and be okay with everything. And I didn't even know any of this happened until after camp. But even just having the ability to, it takes time, be comfortable with yourself, be comfortable with your body. And, some, things as I've grown up, or being in a class, and it's a hot yoga class, and I'm like, I'm sweating my butt off, I'm going to take my shirt off. And, maybe people will see my wrap, maybe we'll see the bag, but also like, it's not going to let it stop me. And I'm going to show the rest of this group that, maybe I'm a little different, I look a little different, but it doesn't mean I can't, hang with the group and do what everyone else is doing.
yeah, I love that. It's what we do every single day as ostomates. Just start proving people wrong.
That's right.
It's a good thing. Looking to see if there's any other questions. Now would be a great time if you have any questions, to shoot them in, because we're reaching the end of our time together. But I'm going to ask LeeAnne and Ryan what I've asked a lot of our past participants. Embarrassing ostomy story. Everybody's got one. What is yours?
I'll keep it very PG. I was having sexual relations and the bag broke and didn't know it at the time, and then very quickly we realized it, but it was okay. Like, it's, I mean, poop happens. That's the PG way to say it. So I mean, if people get, I know this is about exercise, but if people are like that weirded out by something or an accident, and I found it especially like in dating or relationships, like, then maybe that you're not going to be in my life, or you're not my friend. If that's going to be something that's that detrimental or that big of a turnoff or weird for you, then if that's all you can see in me as a person is this, then like, see you later kind of thing. So, accidents happen all the time and weird places, unexpectedly. The more you can be prepared and not only, have supplies with you, but also just being able to laugh at it and move on and not, let it get you down and stop you from living your life and being active. I know, when I was first diagnosed and first had my ostomy, I had a lot of social anxiety, not only about working out, but just going out or going, to dinner, or where's the bathroom? I think it was always my fear, more so pre-ostomy. But now that I had the surgery, it's like, I can go to the bathroom anywhere. I can go camping. I can go wherever I can go. It's gonna be there, and I'm gonna be safe and have that confidence in myself, and the ability that no one it's not going to stop me from living, I guess. Long story short.
That's a great point, and a great reminder to just laugh. There's a lot of moments where it's just going to be way easier to just laugh.
That's all you can do. That is absolutely all you can do. I was in, I had irrigated one morning and I had just put a cover on. And I guess I hadn't given myself enough time for the water to really make sure everything was out. And I was meeting someone I didn't even know in Boston at lunch, nice restaurant, the whole thing. So we're sitting there and I felt the gurgling and I was like, oh, no. And then I smelt, like I could smell, and I was like, oh, this can't be happening. And we were just about done with lunch. And she goes, I need to take a selfie with you. And I'm standing there, I'm like, and I have a dress on, mind you. It was just a cover. It wasn't even the bag. It was just the cover. And I'm like, I know what's happening right now. And I stood up and I could smell it. Yeah. And I was like, I looked down on my foot, I had poop on my foot. And I looked down, I was like, there's crap on my shoe. And we did a quick selfie, and she looked at me, and she knew the situation. She knew that I had a bag, right? But she just looked at me and go, I have to go to the restroom. I will be back. I ran down. The bathroom was in the back of the restaurant, down an elevator. So I had to go through all these people in a tiny elevator, all the way downstairs to get there. And I realized I forgot my scissors and I didn't have a pre-cut flange. So I'm in the bathroom, like trying to wipe off my skirt, trying to wipe off my legs, ripping the flange with my teeth, like creating a hole in the flange just so I could put it all back. It took me like 15 minutes or so to get it. And I said, okay, deep breath, go back up. By the time I got back up there, she had left, had to go back to work, and she paid the check. I was mortified, and I ended up having to call her and tell her what happened. I'm like, listen, there was a scenario, and I'm so sorry. I owe you a lunch. But it was just one of those. And I remember calling my friend of mine on my way home, and I'm crying in the car. I'm like, this is just, it was horrible. I felt horrible. She goes, you have to go write your blog about it. You have to go put it on a blog, and you have to go put it out on social. You just got to go talk about it. And I go, I know, I'm going to, but still I had poop on my foot.
Oh man. Yeah, there are certain experiences that I feel like, unless you're an ostomate, you can't quite identify with just like sitting in a restaurant and seeing your own poop on your foot.
Yeah, no, you just can't. I mean, you're in a restaurant. I mean, I remember there was one thing that did happen to me, because I did do a fitness competition after after we had, after my ostomy, I said, I want to show people that your bodies are beautiful no matter what. So I remember getting up and doing that. And this goes back to almost like being an inspiration for other people, like showing people that it's okay. And I remember this girl just looking at me and saying, what is that? Because I was in a teeny bikini with my bag sitting there, and the person next to her knew what it was and told her what it was. And it kind of shifted the girl like, oh, wow, okay. And the woman next to me goes, my brother has one. Thank you for doing this. So there was 2 people like within this, 7 people around me that knew my scenario and knew exactly what it was. And so it was just kind of like, Ryan was saying earlier about just, being that experience, letting people see you live your life and know that it's okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right now you're talking to a couple of people who are pretty open and vocal about their ostomies. And if that's not you, that's completely fine. There's no right or wrong way to be pro ostomy. You don't have to show it all over social media or anything like that. But don't let it stop you from doing the things that you want to do in life. If that is go swimming, go swimming. If that is going and exercising and doing a 5K, go do a 5K. Like there is nothing that your ostomy should stop you from doing if it makes you happy and you feel passionate about it. So that's all the important stuff. So I'm looking at the clock. We've got 3 more minutes. Are there any other questions from anybody else? Any other questions from LeeAnne or for Ryan? No? Excellent. Excellent. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us for this panel. It's been really cool to talk with 2 people who have navigated exercise and ostomy life themselves, and just hearing your perspective and hearing about how you've been able to keep doing what you want to do. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your day on this glorious Saturday. It's really nice outside where I am, so I'm gonna finish this up and head outside. But if you enjoyed this conversation, please join us in the future. We've got some more coming up in November and December. I think our November one to be announced date-wise, but it should be about being in the support system or caregiving system for an ostomate, either as a parent, a caregiver, a sibling, a significant other, all that sort of stuff. We're going to talk to some people who have played that role for some other ostomates next month in the theme of thankfulness, because why not? But if you want to listen to this conversation again, head over to YouTube and it'll be on there as soon as I download it. So minutes you can rewatch it. But thank you all again for joining us. Thank you to LeeAnne and Ryan for sharing your insight, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.